Wow.
Oh,
Fund drive.
But
All right, I think it's time to start the meeting. I'd like to call to order the Fire District Board meeting of November 16th. Can we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Can we have the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Aldrich,
Yes, here.
Beckman,
Here.
Fox,
Here.
Verplank,
Here.
Phelps,
Here.
Pullen,
here.
and Miller.
Here.
That's everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you please silence your cell phones and try not to text during the meeting? Could we have approval of the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda of November 16th. I think that's the date. Yes.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Pullen and a second by Phelps to approve the agenda. All those in, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
All right.
Does-
Can we
doesn't
have
it have to be
approval
roll
of the
call?
minutes, please? We didn't have any no, so I think that's fine. Can we have a roll call? I'm sorry. Can we have approval of the minutes of the October 19th agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 19th, 2020.
Or,
Have a Dan?
yes.
Okay, I have a motion by Pullen and a second by Fox to approve the minutes of the October 19th meeting. Is there any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. All right. Pullen,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes,
Beckman, did we lose him? Yeah, I think Eric got bounced off. Okay. Phelps,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
That'll be 6-0 approving.
we're having internet problems on ours. I almost didn't get on either. I went through my phone, so.
Sounds like Mr. Beckman is at the door.
I'm back. I'm back. Sorry.
Okay, is there any public comment on agenda items only? I don't think we have any public besides Griffin. Okay, moving on. Could we have requests for payments for the accounts payable, please?
I'll make a motion to pay the accounts payable of $129,341.67.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Phelps and a second by Aldrich to approve the accounts payable. Is there any discussion or any questions?
I've got one about the Summit Company's for $9,456.
I can answer that if you'd like, Jane.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was a lightning strike damage, Scott, to the facility, to both buildings. And it is, there's a claim filed to cover all the expenses. So that was what it cost to change the fire alarm panel and change some of the devices within both buildings.
Okay.
And again, there's a claim submitted for it, so we'll have $1,000 deductible. We had 2 lightning events this year, the fireboat and the building.
Building, yeah. Okay, good.
Is there any other questions?
What's the other 40-foot container for $5,200?
I can answer that. Is that all right, Jane?
Go ahead.
We're running out of room. And
Right.
we had planned for the last 2 years to buy a storage container. And finally, we found a high cube, which is a higher container with doors on both ends. It costs more initially, but we didn't have to have a door put in the other side. So I elected to, since they're so hard to find, to go ahead and get that storage container. And it's behind the back building between our building and Tower Marine's building. Very kind of inconspicuous, and we can get into it from either side. So we have spare tires and wheels and just a surplus of equipment that can be out there that is located in there, in that storage facility.
Okay.
They're very, very handy. You can almost live in this one. It was used one time.
Good, okay,
So that's, I hope that answers your question, Scott.
that does.
I'll keep that in mind. Any other questions? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Phelps,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Cullen,
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, can we have the financial report, Peter?
Okay, on, I think it's page 11 of the 26, our revenues are basically, by next month, we'll have some money trickling in because everybody will have December 1st will be here. And we'll have our tax bill sent out and people will be paying those. So the revenues will start flowing in from the three entities. The expenses, couple of them, one is halfway down, the professional services said we're over budget, but Greg and I talked about it this morning, and about 10 grand of that is from the boat dock, or it was for the survey and something else that was built to the legal counsel. So I'm going to transfer some of that money expenses from professional services down to the long-term capital line item here next week. And then farther down, the building repair and maintenance shows that it's over budget by $1,500. But Scott had brought up, we're going to get reimbursed for that lightning damage to the fire alarm system probably in the next 30 days from the fire company. So that one won't be over budget. I don't see any, does anybody have any particular questions, any other line items that stick out for any unknown reason?
The technology one looks a little high, but
Yeah, well, hopefully they have got everything. Yeah, hopefully they purchased all the new computers and new software that they need for the year. You know, the fire calls, the medical calls are at 24% and 35%, so they're about right where they should be for everything that's going on out there in the world today.
Hey, is that it? Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, thank you, Peter. You're just the best. Okay, moving on to fire chief comments. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Jane. Wanted to walk you through briefly through our data as charted by the infamous legendary Eric Kirchert. We're still running higher than above average, but the calls in 2020 were at about 717 calls. October is higher than normal. I think you'll find comparatively we're down about 11% on calls. I think when we started out in the year earlier, it was 12, 14%. There you go. That slide will show we're about 11% down from 2019 for the same date, November 16th. Okay. This is kind of nice. I think this is a kind of a change for Eric. He's always refining this. So it gives a quantitative measure of days per week incidents. And just a bar graph showing the times that are active, which typically is from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Overlapping incidents doubled in October. So as you know, that's any call that occurs
Oh, yeah.
within an hour of another call. So they really ramped up, and that really pushes our resources. This is an important number to know about because we have to staff all this, which is an ultimate challenge during these times. But we've never missed a call, and we're going to continue on that same pattern of responding to where we're needed. Okay. Just shows the breakdown by area. Pretty typical. Douglas Cove is our nursing home, skilled care facility. Ramped up pretty much this year so far, 35 calls. Then next, okay, please. The key numbers for the community, self-explanatory. If there's any questions, just reach out to me at any time. NFIRS reporting, National Fire Incident Reporting data, is all within the typical matrix. 68% are medical calls, a little higher than typical, but everything else there is in line. Motor vehicle incidents, as much as we seem to get blasted with them, is down because there's less people on the road. But they certainly are no less severe. So we go to vehicle fires. We haven't had anything recently. Next up, we would have, if you could scroll down, the next one. Special events, we just had one in October. And I think what I'm looking for is property protected value loss.
Oh, sorry.
Right there, there we go. That's where I was going at. We had a good stop in downtown Saugatuck. The responding officer, Mike Block, got there first, did some really great direction with staffing. And we were fortunate we were able to stop this fire because where that building is, we probably would have had the neighboring building on fire.
Oh, yeah.
A great job by the crew, a great save, minimal damage. So, response times under 6 minutes, still, as far as I'm concerned, a stellar response time for our community, and we're really happy about that. Priority 1s and 2s at 49 for October. Year to date, 400. We still have November and December to go. The typical statistics on who responded, the volume of response by that person. And I think that's pretty much it. The fireboats, the big ones out of the water. Our new one is not complete, but it is in the water because it's usable. If we had an incident, we would be able to respond to some degree. We just don't have lighting on it yet. So we're waiting for electrical panels to be delivered. So it just shows the marine responses, a lot of boat in distress this year that we're hoping next year we don't have that.
Where's that boat gonna get stored?
Which one? The big one?
Oh, the new one.
The new one, we think we're going to keep it here, Scott. The Elgin County stored the old one till we can sell it. So we didn't want to abuse our, take advantage of our host by putting 2 boats over there. So I think the new 2192 will be stored here. And the old one till it's sold is in the county inside heated storage.
Good.
And when we get that all done, we'll take photos and show the board. Next up, community risk reduction. We have 97 fatal fires, unfortunately, 8 from our last meeting. Pretty dramatic increase. Hate to say that. I wanted to share with you 2 incidents on CO alarm saves, and Chris is bringing me the documents right now. Thank you, Chris. So this is notable for your crew, and I wanted you to hear this. We had the responding officers crew went to the CO alarm, and they were going off on arrival. They had higher levels of CO inside the building and discovered that the furnace was defective. There was an issue there. So fortunately, the people called us. They called us in time, and the responding crew was able to red tag the furnace, shut it off, and make sure the people didn't use it again. So it just shows how important carbon monoxide alarms are to our community, and they have the proper response with the right equipment. Likewise, we had another one that was a save, and the homeowner was standing outside and the alarm was going off. And what they do sometimes is they open up the windows, so it's hard to detect what's wrong when that happens. They're told to leave the windows closed, but vacate the building. A lot of people don't want to go outside when it's cold. So they found the water heater stack completely disconnected from the vent, and all the CO from the water heater was just going inside the house. So they took the water heater out of service, tagged it, and no health issues. So another good save as far as we're concerned, and something I wanted you to know about. Next up, we have thank yous to Hollandia Gardens. I reached out to them, and I said, I've got a champagne project with a beer budget. What can you do for me? And Scott Prince, who owns Hollandia Gardens, asked his foreman to reduce the pricing of the landscaping. And in our effort to beautify, Jane was a big supporter of this, an advocate to beautify our street end down by Lucy and Water Street. We have some nice plants down there. Jane donated some hostas. I donated ground covering. Hollandia Gardens to put in the plants at a reduced cost. So we're happy with the outcome. And then in our effort to eliminate all the dead trees next door, we've been clearing out some of the property on the lot to the south. And this is the second year. I think we took out 35 trees this time that were dead sycamores. And again, I asked Axeman what he could do for a $2,000 budget. And I was
Hello?
Greg froze.
Video lagged out, chief.
Yeah, we lost the chief.
Careful how you say that.
Talking, but we can't hear him.
Picture's kind of frozen.
Chris, can you check on the chief?
Yeah, he looks a little frozen.
He does. Can you go see if he's okay?
I just lost him. Eric's back.
He's gonna try and log off and back in.
Okay.
I know I had to once.
Yeah.
Sounds like him. Know that doorbell anywhere.
Oh dear. Here we-
Can you all hear me now?
There we
Yes.
go.
Yes,
Okay. So just to wrap up, Axman clearly did a substantial job clearing out the dead trees next door. So that project's done and grinding all the stumps. Next up, I wanted to make the fire board aware of a House bill I'm working on called House Bill 5992. Basically what this is provides radio coverage inside schools. There's a huge void in the construction code. And throughout Michigan, they are doing major modifications, $50, $60 million, yet there's no priority in the budget or no requirement that requires us to have communication for public safety within a building. And I'm aiming to change that. I was just notified Friday that it didn't make it into the reading. It had its first reading, but they're closed session for the rest of the year. So it'll be brought up as soon as the session reopens. But a pretty significant House bill as far as we're concerned.
Steve,
frozen again.
Greg,
I think he's gonna have to try and log off again.
Yeah, looks like it. Oh, there he is. No, yes.
You're back. Okay.
Got me now? My internet connection is unstable.
Keith, I got a question.
Okay, is that the end of your report, Greg?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Jane?
Unfinished business, customer service survey. Greg, do you want to chime on this?
Madam
Yes,
Chair, Mr. Fox is raising his hand to make a comment or a question or something.
Can you hear
Oh,
me?
Mr. Fox, what can I do for you?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I just wanted to go back a step and ask the chief with the the substantial renovation work being done at the elementary school and the high school. Have provisions, to your knowledge, have provisions been made in those buildings as they're renovated to accommodate fire department communication?
I don't know yet, Dan. I have not been approached with details on the construction project. I know that I talked to the superintendent about it and expressed concern, and he was more than willing to meet with us and make it a priority. We have to get together on that. I'm kind of waiting for them when they're going to approach me. So I'm hoping I don't have a requirement for it other than a plea to say, do the right thing. Let's have this up towards the top of the budgetary requiremements. So
I understand. I just think I don't want to lose the moment when they're actually, drawing up the plans or whatever.
Right.
I'm assuming it would be cheaper for them to do it now than to have to backfill.
absolutely, if they have to add conduit into it afterwards, because right now in some parts of the building, some of the communication radio signal for, like, say, Allegan County Sheriff, some of it is dodgy. So I'll tell you what, I will make a note and I will get with the superintendent next week. I'll reach out to him.
I was going to say, maybe, I don't know if the systems are the same systems, or I mean, if it piggybacks on the same system, but to have.
They're all the same system.
So the sheriff, if you're good, the sheriff's good.
Right. What we went with on this 800 system is true interoperability. We wanted to have the ability to talk with one another, and on an act of violent incident, that's going to be imperative.
Yeah.
So he was very receptive to hearing it. And I said, I think you need to be informed that we can't talk everywhere in the school. What can we do about it? So I'll reach out to him and find out when I'm going to be involved in the plans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Jane.
okay.
Oh, and next customer survey. You want me to jump into that?
Sure, yeah, go right ahead.
So Aaron, I don't think Aaron's on, right? Correct? He's not on yet. He's in another meeting.
Oh, he was,
Correct. He jumped off for the city meeting.
Okay, so Aaron and I have been pretty vigilant on working on the survey in between other things on the weekends and stuff. And Aaron has done a terrific job at some of the amendments. I just sent him another amendment about 45 minutes ago. And here's what I wanted the board to consider, possibly a work group that would include Dan Fox, Aaron, myself, and Eric Beckman, just to look at the questions to see if we're on track with pretty much with what I think Eric brought up and Dan had commented on, to see if we've addressed everything that you want to address without overdoing the survey. You have a limited amount of time span for these people, so we're trying to keep it to 5 or 6 minutes. So we do have a draft, but wanted to see if there would be any interest in just a little work group to kind of look at it so we don't tie up the board's time and the public's time with punctuation and language. We can kind of do that, you know, off to the side and then present it to the board for review before we do the survey.
so you and Eric and Dan and Aaron will be doing what?
We would
Will
have
you
a
be
work
the-
group,
They will
group
be the
where we
work-
would go over it. And then we would present it to the board and say, here's what we came up with. What do you think?
They will be the work group, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, okay, okay.
So I'm volunteering Dan and Eric
And Aaron, and what about Aaron?
and Aaron, of course, Aaron.
Eric always buys the beer, so I'm good with that.
I guess that's what happens, Dan, when we jump in and give our opinions, right?
There you go. Should have learned that in the Army.
I wanted it to be punitive. I didn't want it to be punitive in nature. Sorry.
Happy.
So, well, good. Then we can, I'll get with, we'll share it with Dan and with Eric Beckman, and we might even be able to have something to present to the board in December. So that concludes the survey comment. Jane, you want me to go to the next thing, COVID?
Go ahead.
Madam or Chair or Chief, do we need a roll call vote to form a work group, or is that not a formality, or just as a question?
Well, you have 3 members of,
That's
the board.
correct.
So we should be under a quorum was part of the reason for that.
so it's probably fine the way it is.
Okay.
Can vote on it if you want to, but it's informal because it's not a quorum, so do what you want to with it.
I was just asking the question if I needed to write down vote names.
Okay,
Yeah, my opinion is we don't have to
Okay,
do a
cool.
roll call. It was just an option for the board. Okay, COVID-19, I think we all know what we're dealing with here, the severity of it. I can tell you that it's entered our doors. It's had an impact on Saugatuck Fire. Staffing has become more of a challenge. We've had to bring back people in overtime, and we've got a number of people in quarantine and isolation. So we brought up the Elgin County dashboard, which Eric suggested, which is great. So we can kind of scroll through this. You can look at this at your leisure another time. But I think you all know that this thing has escalated to a point of severity that it has hit home and it has hit Saugatuck. And we are doing everything we can to minimize the impact to our department. We have plans in place, reduce staffing as far as who responds, and a reduction in people that are going into the house and going on scenes and masking up. So we've also I reached out to other fire departments and hired some of their personnel. Some of them were available, some of them were not. So we're covering our bases, going into plan B and C. But you can see that this thing has really gotten out of control. And the next 3 weeks, as by the governor's order, is going to be a real eye opener for Michigan. I want to share with you, I cannot give details, it's confidential, but I'm one of 7 people that was assigned to the Elgin County Health COVID Community Vaccination Task Force. State of Michigan, we had to come up with a plan for vaccination, and I was selected as the fire representative. I guess they think I can talk the fire service into vaccinating Elgin County citizens. So more about that as I can reveal it. We talked about staffing and the schedule impact. One thing I would ask the board to consider is the handbook states we can only roll over 40 hours to the next anniversary year for an employee. I've already had one employee cancel his vacation because he can't take his vacation. I've got 85 hours in vacation time, probably 40 hours in comp time. I'm not going to be able to take off. I ask you that you allow so they can, instead of rolling over 40 hours, pay them out 40 hours, up to 40 hours. And they're going to try to use up the hours when they can, but between now and December, it's not going to happen. No one's going to be taken off. I got to bring Chris Manos back in on Tuesday. I'm short 3 staff members. So, and I ran all weekend. So we need to be considerate of that. And I don't want to penalize my personnel because they can't take their vacations. I hope that makes sense. And that I would ask for a roll call vote that allows for a payout on 40-hour time rather than rolling it over.
Okay, I think that sounds very reasonable for these times. If we didn't have this COVID stuff going on and all that kind of stuff, I think not. But I do think for these times, we have to make these kinds of exceptions. So I'll make a motion to pay the vacation payout request.
I'll support.
Okay, I have a motion by Pullen and support by Beckman to pay out vacation time. I hope there's a discussion. Peter?
40 hours in that. So her motion didn't say any how many hours, maximum hours to pay out.
Okay, you need to amend your motion, Drew, to include 40.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to read up to 40 hours.
And I also think we need to put a time frame on this, considering what's going on.
Well, they have to take it by the end of the year.
So this is just for the 2020 calendar year,
I would do it for the calendar year.
and then
We would-
revisit it if we're into this next year. But I think we need to put a time on it, or a date.
Okay, by December 31st, 2020.
As far as the payout, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Right. They don't have to take the rest of the vacation because we're going to anniversary dates when they were hired. So the
Okay.
payout would be by December 31st of 2020. Is that correct?
correct.
May I suggest, Mrs. Pullen, to amend your motion to be either 40 hours or 56 hours for the 24-hour shift personnel, just because that's how their week is actually 56 hours, not 40, just so we account for it accurately, if that's fair.
Okay, I amend my motion to read 40 hours or 56 hours. Is that what I should be saying?
Yeah, for the 24-hour shift personnel would be 56 hours.
For the 24-hour shift person, it would be 56 hours.
Correct.
Okay,
You good with that, Eric?
Yeah, I'll support.
Okay, I think we need to have a kind of a discussion about what's going on at the fire department. I'm not sure that this survey is that important if it's going to take up a lot of Greg's time. I know Greg is involved in so many things with the COVID thing, and things seem to be ramping up really quickly, and our personnel is really starting to be affected by this. So my feeling is if it doesn't have COVID at the top of the page, it's just fallen way down in the priority list. we need to take care of our personnel and give them as much time off as we can. And I don't mean time off that they're supposed to be working, but time off that they volunteer to work. I think we have to become really, really aware of what's going on at the station right now. I think there's a lot of people sick, and there's a lot more people that are gonna get sick, I'm afraid. And I really think we need to pay attention to how hard our staff is working.
Okay, if the survey, is that something we can put off? I mean, how important is that customer service survey? If we could put that off till after the holidays.
Yeah, if I could respond to that, I mean, I agree with Jane, and Aaron's taken a huge load off me as far as his input on it. So I kind of work on it when I have a spare 15 minutes or an hour, and it's worked out. I guess if the board's not disappointed, I don't have it by December, that will help me.
Oh, yeah, I personally think it's just
So-
fine.
But if I have Eric and Dan honing in on some of it, that's gonna help. But, you know, I don't think anybody really said I had to have it. It was a task the board wanted me to do. So I like to respect that request and get it done as quickly as possible. Obviously, COVID is taking so much of our
Yeah.
time that if it ends up being January, if the board isn't disappointed in January or February, I hope that's acceptable to the board.
It's acceptable for me personally, and maybe there's some stuff you can give to Eric and Dan where you don't have to be present, and they can look it over.
Well, I
I
don't think there's any deadline on this. I think one of the reasons why we talked about a survey is conversations regarding
Yeah.
EM service in the future. And with the COVID thing going on, it kind of shows that, hey, maybe we do need something like an EMT. And that was the point behind, hey, instead of 7 board members deciding which way to go, let's reach out to the public. But I don't think there's really a set time frame that has to be done. I mean, I think if we get it done in the first quarter of 21 or even mid-year, that's fine.
Okay, good. I agree with all that. I think that's fine. You can work on it when you can, Chief. If you can't, okay. The COVID stuff is far more important, I think.
Thank you.
That's my personal opinion anyway.
Thank you.
I was curious, what's protocol to return to work after you've had COVID? I mean, do you get, how many tests do you take, or is
Right.
that, or is
So
it the time factor?
we follow the Elgin County Medical Controls guidelines, and isolation is, when can you be around others? I have it right here. So 10 days since the symptoms first appeared, and 24 hours with no fever, without the use of fever-reducing medications. And other symptoms of COVID-19 are improving. Now, loss of taste and smell may persist for months and is not a reason to delay. But what we have now, board, is we have families that have been infected with COVID. Spouses, we have some spouses that are positive, some spouses that are negative in the same household. So it's really hard to define, and we have some people that are sick that are tested negative. So it's really, you know, kind of hard thing to get a handle on just what we do. But if somebody thinks they were exposed, they contact me and I say self-quarantine. Well, that's 14 days I don't have them. And I have 6 of those right now. And then the other ones that were positive, they wait out their term and then they can come back and do order. So we're filling in those voids, but we do follow this guideline, Stace.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, when somebody thinks they've been exposed, are they tested? Is that mandatory or not?
Well, that's a great question. That's a great question, Dan. We've been denied testing.
Heard that.
The system has failed
Yes.
firefighters and first responders. We've had some incidents where we were notified 3 or 4 days after the incident, the person was COVID for whatever reasons. It was undetermined when we responded. Fortunately, we were masked up, gloved, and did the best we can to minimize contamination. I think on 4 occasions we were denied after COVID exposure because they had no symptoms. It took me 6 days to get a slot to get testing. And Chris did it for me. He went online, being a computer mind, and he finally got me into a test facility. I waited 6 days. Now I wait another 3 days for the results. So here's something you should know. David Blatt is our medical director. Most of you know he's a former ER doctor from Chicago. I had David fill in for a conference call for me about medical control and an internal administered test that we can do within our department that's ready for release in the next week. 15-minute results. I have to get 940 test kits. Okay, tell me what they are, how much they are. My first thought was reach out to Elgin County Chiefs Association, see which ones want to do it. And I thought, well, that's just 300 tests. Why don't I reach out to 2 of my departments? We each take 330, 320 tests. What's the cost? We were just informed the cost is free.
Wonderful.
I could test my guys 2 or 3 times if I even think they were exposed, but it has to be approved. We have to apply. And that's one of the things I'm trying to work on to qualify. I've got to fill out the template, and David gave it to me over the weekend. So it was one of the things I wanted to share with the board. To me, we just can't get in to be tested. And
This is wonderful.
Something that is internal and that we can have priority along with nurses and doctors, but we're not treated that way. They wouldn't even take 2 of my guys at the hospital because they didn't have symptoms.
Greg,
So are you a carrier or not?
Greg, who has to authorize it?
Medical control, and the state have to authorize it. It's being tested by 3 fire departments right now. And the rumor is it will be approved.
And how soon before we can get all this, do you know?
I don't know, I'm hoping within 10 days, but I don't
Uh-huh.
know. David Blatt is my partner on this, and obviously that's gone to the top of the priority for me, is get test kits in here. And Grasscup
that's
and
wonderful.
Hamilton already committed. Apparently I can't have all 940 kits myself.
No.
So they said, count us in.
Oh, I think it's wonderful.
I would hate to expose somebody to COVID that's having a heart attack. So it'd be, in everyone's best interest if the firefighters were
Oh,
tested quite a bit, so that they're not spreaders.
Right.
So hopefully we get those tests.
Oh, yes. I think this is great.
I'll
And
do
also-
everything I can to secure those tests.
It
Does the
also
board
has,
need to do? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it also has impact in terms of available man hours, because exposure does not equal having COVID. So and yet you need to track exposure, but if you can test and within whatever 48 hours know the answer to that, you pick up 10 days of that person being out.
Yeah.
So it's terrific on that account as well.
It
So you
changes
would-
the whole dynamics of everything, just the timing of it. Go on, True, I'm sorry.
No, so you would just be doing constant testing whether somebody was exposed or not. I mean, knowing, because they could be exposed and you not know it. So would you just be doing testing like 2-3 times a week, something like that with people?
I think
does
we
that
use
work?
more discretion than that, True. I
Okay.
think we would do testing if we thought there was an exposure.
Okay, okay.
Because, if we start going through 40, 50 test kits a week,
Yeah,
it may
true.
not be
you're
the prudent thing to do.
gonna- Right, okay. Thank you for
How
explaining.
many of your EMT calls right now are COVID? I mean, because of people having difficulty with COVID, have you had very much of that?
That's a great question, Stacy. It's one that I noticed over the weekend with the neighboring departments, where probably every other call is COVID positive.
And they're having difficulty breathing or whatever is, and that's, yeah.
COVID can give you headaches, diarrhea. The symptoms are not the same with one another. It's not automatic. We have people positive COVID that have no symptoms. Then we have somebody who's test negative that's been sick for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Could the test have failed? You bet, it might have. So there is no distinct symptoms that everyone is going to get the same symptom. It's going to vary based on your metabolism.
Mhm.
But you hear it on the radio, you hear all the other, take precautionary measures because the person is COVID positive.
Yes.
So my point in starting this discussion was to make the board cognizant of the fact that the fire department, the people who work there are working under a great deal of stress. They have to worry about them getting COVID. They have to worry about taking COVID home to their families. We just need to be cognizant of the fact that staffing, I mean, these people come into work every day and are exposed to COVID. So you need to be aware of the fact that people are under a great deal of stress and you know, work with that, with the staff. I can tell when I see staff now that they're not their usual selves. They're concerned about where they are, what they do all the time. So I really think it's important that we not put any more pressure on the staff for anything. I think they need to be working on the COVID situation and, you know, taking a break in between runs.
I appreciate that, Jane, a great deal. And the board's been terrific about being sensitive to our time constraints and the demands that public safety has now placed upon us. So I appreciate that consideration more than I could express in this Zoom meeting.
They still have the everyday business of running a fire department along with all the stress and strain of being exposed to COVID constantly.
One question I had, Chief, we do not have Johnny at the front desk anymore, correct? For
Yes, sir.
walk-in?
Correct. The acting fire clerk is a 24-hour shift person. He has other duties or she has other duties, so sometimes they're on the floor. We don't have a face at that front desk all the time. You know, we probably have it 3 days a week based on who's there.
I'd almost say we shouldn't have it at all and leave a number for people to call.
They're not even getting in the door.
Good.
Say the door is locked.
Yeah, but it's a good point, Eric. Whoever gets in here is screened, and even then we don't like doing it. They're masked up. People have been pretty vigilant about that. But good call there, Eric. We are not letting people in.
Good.
Plan reviews, all that's taken a back seat to what I got going on here. I have to staff response 24 hours a day. I can't worry about projects.
No,
Can't
no,
worry
I
about
agree.
that stuff. So,
I agree.
Thomas, do we have to finish the voting on the payout? Did
Yeah,
we
would-
finish it? Okay.
Madam Chair, would you like me to reread what I wrote?
I think we have that discussion. Chris, maybe, do you have a motion that you can read back to us?
Yeah, that's what I was just asking, if you'd like me to read it. So I have a motion by Pullen, second by Beckman, to pay out 40 hours or 56 hours as applicable for full-time personnel's vacation time by 12/31 of 2020 for the 2020 calendar year and reevaluate 2021 in 2021. Does that sound like what you said, Drew?
Yes, yes.
And you seconded, Eric?
Yes, I do.
Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. All right, Pullen.
Yes,
Okay, Beckman,
Yes,
Phelps,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes,
Fox,
Yes.
and Verplank.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, board.
Yes, appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have a new MERS defined benefit approval. Pete, are you still on?
Okay, this really isn't new. What it is MERS is making all of its 800 plus units of governments that has any kind of retirement programs, getting basically the records up to date so everybody's on the same page. So this first one is the defined benefit, is the old type retirement. Basically, the only people that qualify for this currently and still under this proposal are the full-time career guys that are full-time. So basically, just the division name is just our number. The name is just, it says full-time fire. The employee classification, they are considered public safety employees. And the next page down is who qualifies. Basically, this employee classification, temporary, part-time, seasonal, the voter elected officials is the board, appointed officials, contract, but they're all excluded. So the only are full-time career employees for the defined benefit program. There's no probationary period. Day one, they start accruing time towards the defined benefit. And then basically what's the dollar amount, what they're accruing on is only on their base wages. For the full-time, it's only, everybody really has a base salary wage. That's what they're accruing time towards, not the extra calls or the overtime rates. So basically you can see the first column on the left, it's just the box is checked at the top. It's the base wages. You go down that entire column, what's excluded, what's included. And then farther down, basically to receive service credit, you have to work basically 160 hours in a month, which is not a problem. Service credit is granted if somebody's out on short-term or long-term disability on a workers' comp claim. If you're on FMLA, service credit is excluded. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Greg and I went through this here the last month, and basically it just, really, we're not changing anything. This is how the plan is currently, but MERS wants everybody to basically do an updated follow-up, and we had to have this adopted by the end of 2020 because this goes in effect for their record for January of 21.
this really doesn't. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Does this really affect anything we're doing? I mean, this is just breaks it down even more, but basically same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Basically, it's everything that's how it is right now. It just, I don't know if they didn't have completed records or they've got some kind of legal counsel. They're making all their plans throughout the whole MERS, and there's over 800 units of government, and we're basically updating. Basically, they needed this adopted by the board. It needed to be updated and brought to them. So really, we have not changed any of the factor on the accrual or what the years of service have to be for someone to start collecting retirement. So none of that has changed.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, well, just a minute. I'll make a motion to approve the MERS defined benefit. To approve the MERS defined benefit.
As presented.
Yeah, that should be good. It doesn't really.
May I have a second, please?
I'll support.
We have a motion by Pullen and support by Aldrich. Is there any more discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please, Chris?
Yes, ma'am. Pullen,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes,
Fox,
Yes.
Beckman,
yes,
Verplank,
Yes.
and Phelps.
yes.
Thank you. That's 6-0.
Okay.
Who do
moving
you
on
want to sign this?
system.
Probably what does, yeah, there's two of them to be signed out. I guess probably it's adopted by the, because you need the minutes. I was assuming that the chief could sign it, or maybe the chair of the board could sign it. Either one of them would
I
work.
would chair of the board, maybe.
So the next one, this is MERS, is another house, is the defined contribution plan, which covers everybody. We had that 457, which is on the employee side, which we don't have to do anything there. The defined contribution is the fire department side. And basically, you know, it's our name, our number for MERS, plan eligibility. And down here it says you basically have to be a certified firefighter and medical first responders. Everybody's classified as a public safety employee. And then we get to page 2, who's excluded or included. Temporary employees, the part-time, the seasonal are all included. Excluded are basically board members, elected officials, or contract employees. And there's no probationary periods. As long as they're a certified firefighter or certified MFR, they're good to go. And then this, what's the definition of compensation? It's basically all gross wages. So all the regular wages, their extra calls, and that includes all the calls that the part-time or the paid on call, I won't call them part-time, really it's the paid on call people members make. So yeah, really we're just another housekeeping thing for MERS. Nothing's really changed. This is how we've been doing it since we've had this program in place for probably the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is it covers the temporary, the part-time, seasonal. That kind of covers the broad range of our paid on call, used to be called volunteer firefighters, MFRs. So I don't know if anybody has, I guess we need a motion first if there's questions. So.
I'll make a motion to update the MERS defined contribution as presented.
Second.
Motion by Beckman and a second by Fox. Is there any more discussion? Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Beckman,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
and Pullen.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay.
Pete, if you want to stop by tomorrow, I can sign that stuff for you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Public comment.
We got correspondence first, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a correspondence from the Lake Michigan Shore Association, letter to Allegan County Road Commission. We're just taking this as information, correct?
Yeah, this is just a letter requesting that, recognizing the severity of the road deterioration at the new washout, requesting that Allegan County do something about it, which they have approved a feasibility study. They have to decide, the board has to decide, Allegan County Road Commission Board has to decide if they are going to spend the money to fix that road in that area. So we're hoping they do. This just reinforces how the people that live on the lakeshore feel about the road being fixed.
Okay, moving on to public comment. We don't have much public. Griffin, you got anything?
No, thank you.
It's so nice of you to come. All right, moving on. If there's no public comment, fire board comments. Eric?
Nope, good.
Let's see. Stacy?
I'm good, thanks.
Dan Fox?
Here.
Scott Phelps?
I'm good.
True.
all good. Your timing is good because I only have 5% left on my iPad, so this is great.
Oh, well, we like to be accommodating.
Yes.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion during the meeting of November 16th, 2020.
Have a second?
I'll support.
A motion by Pullen, second by Aldrich. Okay, have a roll call vote, please.
Yes, ma'am. Pullen,
Yes,
Aldrich,
Yes,
Beckman,
Yes,
Fox,
Yes,
Verplank,
Yes.
and Phelps.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.